Welcome back, people. Panel number 2. Things that go bump in the night. So, welcome to our panel. We've got Nat Robinson, it's his first time here. Ivan Bunn, Joe Freeman, and Paul Huggins. So, ghosts. Let's kick off with an easy one. Favourite ghost stories?
Favourite?
Mr. Freeman?
The ash tree, I think, M.R. James. M.R. James really opened my eyes to what ghosts could be. I tried reading him at a stupidly early age, I think it was about 12 or 13, because I'd heard of his influence over the horror field, which I was getting into at the time. But I wasn't yet mature enough, I think, to appreciate it. I went back to him when I was 18 and 19, and it astounded me. His ghosts were not polite. They didn't stand waiting in a corner guarding some old, secret politely. They were hardly recognisable as ghosts. They were vicious. They were almost pissed off by having died, and the very act of being dead had twisted them into something which was physically, emotionally not human. His ghosts had claws and teeth and long hair, and it was astounding. It really showed me that ghosts don't have to be conventional. So certainly a lot of his stories, the ash tree, amongst them Lost Hearts, I would cite as my favourite ghost stories.
Right. Yeah, couldn't agree more. That was what started me down the road as M.R. James. His ghosts, they have another worldliness about them. They're not just sort of shadows of humans. There's something about them, and that's the scary bit. And it's also his delivery of the story, which is brilliant.
Yes,
because he was a professor of religion, I think, and religious studies. He was quite an academic. But yeah, I quite agree. Those ghosts they're the opposite to what I think in popular imagined ghosts.
Certainly up until that time, a lot of Victorian Edwardian ghost stories are incredibly restrained to the point of dullness. There's a lot to be said for restraint and subtlety, absolutely, but you want a story to have teeth in there somewhere, and you want to feel frightened, you want to feel threatened, you want to feel disturbed, or certainly I do. And for a ghost just to be no threat whatsoever, if we're reading a horror story without any sense of danger in it, any sense of fear, but knowing these ghosts could attack you. They were nasty ghosts. They were angry ghosts.
I think it's a Jack Ketchum story. I think it's called Ashes or Dust. I think in his collection Peaceable Kingdom. And I think it was him actually, or Stephen King, I think, and Cameron did it. But it's about 9/11 and the ghosts that came from that, and it wasn't so much a scary story. It's about a character being reunited with someone they lost, and they didn't use ghosts as such as the dust. It was just the way that they used a different form instead of like a shape or a shadow. It was just dust was the ghost. This character found himself haunted by his ex-partner, and that's a good story.
Funnily enough, it's a funny little story, The Raven by Poe. Because I like how it's paranoia, not knowing what's there, and what is on the other side of the door, or who, and this paranoia just taking him to his grave sort of thing. I like that, the unknown, definitely.
That's a question for us. As far as ghosts go, is it scarier to not see them, not to have the reveal, or do you want the reveal?
You want a glimpse of the reveal. You want the best of both worlds. You want to see it, but just not quite enough. just enough to feel the worst, I think, because it's, however terrifying something is, or however wonderful something is, we can become desensitized to it. If somebody's afraid of spiders, for example, and yet they spend enough time around spiders, sooner or later they're going to realise they're not actually that scary. So if there's something banging on the door, your imagination is running riot, your emotions are running riot. You open that door, however terrifying it is, unless you drop dead of a heart attack instantly, after a few seconds, you're going to assimilate it, you're going to become used to it. And that's why so many film monsters can look ridiculous if they have a bright light shone on them. We'd rather see...
obvious.
Yeah.
Just straight out there and in your face.
And a lot of them can't take it, quite frankly.
Then you're feeding off the fear of the person that's being chased or attacked. And then you're just feeding off of their fear, so you're not going to scared yourself.
The basic fear with the ghosts, I think, you're right, it's this fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
It's something that it's lurking there. If you can actually expose it and see what it is, a lot of the fear goes, because you've got something tangible, even if it's intangible.
You can deal with it.
That you can deal with. But it's the fear. I've actually had a personal experience of that. Many moons ago in Norwich on a council estate, and I didn't realise that the house next door was supposedly haunted. I was sleeping in my in-laws bedroom with my wife, and I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and I got out of bed. I walked to the bedroom door in the dark, and something, I don't know, I'm not saying I saw a ghost, whether I was grasped by an abject fear of something that was on the other side of that door, and I thought, I don't care if I clear the bed, I'm going back. I can't open that door. And I could not open that door. I don't know what it was. I just could not open the door to go out onto the landing because there was something on the other side. I don't know, I didn't hear anything, I didn't see anything, but there was this abject, perhaps I'd had a bit too much to drink, I don't know. But it was a gut-wrenching, tangible fear that sort of came up.
I've had a very similar experience to that. Late one night, I think a lot of people call them shadow people, that sort of thing. And I was at a friend's house, and it was a notoriously haunted house. And it also, I think people attract spirits, ghosts, or some do, some can't, some can. And I was in a house with people who'd seen ghosts all their lives, and things happened in that house that I just cannot explain. I think I've told you quite a few of them in the past, but one in particular was this. We were turning in for the night. It was me and my mate Pete were there. We were the only ones in the house, and you go along the corridor and around and up the stairs, and you've got the kitchen door there, and it's just an archway, nothing there. And as we came up the stairs, he was in front of me, and I got to the bottom of the stairs, and I was looking through the archway, and normally you'd see, even in the darkest nights, you'd see a silhouette of a window, and there was nothing, and it was pure blackness. And I just felt, I just felt really in fear of something. It was real, I couldn't put my finger on it, it felt threatening, really threatening. And I just get up the stairs, and we legged it up the stairs and locked ourselves in our room.
It kind of begs the question though. I mean, it was incredibly dark when I had this experience, but it does. Yeah. Is it because there was a ghost outside, or is it some primeval fear that you dark. Trigger of the dark that becomes a physical experience? Yeah. I'm not saying there was a ghost the other side of that door, but there was something that triggered a fear.
That was exactly the same for me. I couldn't say there was anything there. I didn't see anything.
No, I didn't.
But it was just black, real black.
Any supernatural experience, isn't it?
I did come home one night, and the house was empty. I'd come back early, and I'd opened the door, and we were in a new house, built it myself, and it was very creaky. And I was in the room, I could hear someone moving upstairs. I thought, oh, we've got a burglar, I've got to got to confront them. So went upstairs, but the house was empty. It's just weird how the house was creaking with no one in it. And so naturally had to write a
So
story
it's a
about
new
it.
build as well.
Yeah, new build. It's just a creak. You go downstairs, the stairs creak. Every floor creaks, but it was. I was in the house alone, and I could hear someone moving upstairs.
Yeah.
It was empty. I'm still living there though. It didn't scare me. It didn't scare me.
I think they get used to it.
I think in the media, obviously recently we've had a lot of sort of zombies, vampires, and like Walking Dead, True Blood, and all that, right up in the public's consciousness. There doesn't seem to be many sort of ghost-related things around now. Any thoughts on why this might be?
It comes in cycles. So you do get years where you have nothing but ghost movies. I think at the moment we're going through a very visual, visceral phase, and it's one which I won't say can't involve ghosts, but they don't lend themselves too well to. But I've no patience with the notion that you hear every so often that they're dying out, or it's an old-fashioned form. It's nonsense. The ghost story is incredibly resilient. It was once predicted that the invention of the electric light bulb would see the death of ghost stories. And the great thing is, and you only have to look at films and books, indeed, of the past dozen years or so, to see how well they work with modern technology. Everything's been involved. Video cassettes, mobile phones, televisions, you name it. It's been haunted, and sometimes incredibly well. So they will always be with us, whether we like it or not.
It's probably trying to grasp onto our own immortality, really.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? There's a lot of that involved as well.
As long as there's people, there'll be death, and as long as there's death, there'll be ghosts.
Well, Joseph, you particularly sort of have written a lot about sort of ghosts in East Anglia. So what attracts you to this particular area, these type of ghosts and stuff?
What works for me first and foremost, and what inspires me beyond anything else, is atmosphere. And what I always come away from anywhere, a day out, a holiday, a night out, meeting somebody, going to a new place, is what atmosphere did it leave me with. And the atmosphere I found out here is incredible. The beauty and yet the isolation working together in such a romantic and yet at times unsettling and otherworldly way. The area is steeped in history, of course, and you don't have to look far to find real ghost stories. But then you only have to walk along a beach at dusk or through the woods as the sun's going down, and how soon you can cross the line from it being a beautiful, pleasant walk to the sun's gone too low. All of a sudden the shadows are too deep. You feel how alone you are, whereas a few minutes ago you loved that feeling. Now it's something else, and it's crossing the line, but I think it does it very well out here because of how remote we are.
And that's where M.R. James got his inspiration.
Of course.
Entirely from that.
That's all this area.
It's all set in this area, because there is, I was going to use the word mystical, I think that's the wrong word. There is something sometimes otherworldly.
Yes.
I illustrate this, I do quite a lot of talks at schools to youngsters, and I illustrate this with the wonders of technology by taking a bright picture of a country lane with trees, a sunlit scene, a nice scene, usually with no people in it, it's best, and then I will make a copy of that, and I will do it in black and white, in monochrome, and then I will fade the dark image into the coloured one. I did it last night. And the complete atmosphere, not only of the picture, but in the room amongst the kids, changed as that lovely, bright, sunlit picture changes into a dark, half-lit scene. It's absolutely incredible. It's a wonderful experience to try that, especially on youngsters who's sometimes working with youngsters. I'm sure some of you know is a bit difficult today because they've seen and done just about everything through TV and their games and that. But even one image like that, there doesn't have to be a ghost in it. And I will do that as I tell the ghost story. I will let the bright sunny picture fade into exactly the same picture, It looked as if the sun is going down and it's getting dark, and then you tell the story, and the impact is 100 times greater. And it's just this visual thing that's doing it, accompanied by the words. And you can get that a lot around. I don't know. I've never tried doing it in townscapes. Perhaps I should try it to see if it works just as effectively. But certainly in
dark alleyways and things like that.
Yeah.
So the three of you guys, you're obviously quite local sort of to here, or at least Anglia area. Do each of you have any favourite places that are repeatedly haunted or particularly prone to supernatural activity?
So many around here.
There's so many. My I have to say, I first became interested in psychical research, ghost hunting, the paranormal I think my first investigation was 1972, which seems rather long ago now, and with a group of friends mutually shared the same. We thought we were going to crack the story. We thought that we would find out, we would set up our scientific equipment and we would find them in. And here I am, 2013, more bloody confused. And most of the stories tended to peter out when you investigated them. The one story that really, I think, just lives on and on is situated just up the road from here. It's in. This is a plug for my book, actually. He's become known as the Old Man of Hopton, and it's just to cut the story short. It's the story of the apparition of a man that's seen crossing the road, only at Hopton, just up the road, a few miles up the road from here. There has been so many accounts of this, right back from the 1930s, right through. I heard a recent account only yesterday of somebody who came into the record office where I work, and he said, I actually told many people about this. He said, but the Old Man of Hopton, I've seen him. And if anybody were to say to me, where would I recommend they go for a supernatural experience, or a possibility of it's that stretch of road. There is something incredibly strange about that stretch of road. The descriptions of the figure that have been seen are so consistent that that has to be my, if you like, my favourite haunted place rather than my favourite ghost story. There is something. What it is, I don't know. I don't know whether it's a ghost of a dead person or it's.
You get an atmosphere, don't you?
But there isn't that. There are some people who've said it's on the main road to Yarmouth from here. There's also people who are not familiar with this area. There is a back, they call it the back road. It goes along the cliff top. Some people will actually say at night they will actually take the longer route round the back rather than drive along that piece of road. And it's a dual carriageway with loads of cars and lights, and yet there is something about that area that's. Mind you, the Great Dragon Ley line crosses the coast at that point.
I've got a couple actually. There's a little, very small hamlet called Polstead, which is, I mean, I don't know this story, which is over near Hadley where I live, just side of Ipswich. And there was a notorious murder there called the Red Barn murder, which of its time it was blasted all out of all. The story just exceeded everything, and I visited there a few times because it's so close to me. And where the Red Barn was, I sort of experienced some really strange feelings, and you could feel things going on. It was really weird. It was on tiny little back roads of Taylor's. And the other place though is Borley, of course, which is not far away, despite controversy over the stories about Borley. The area itself feels weird. It's a very odd place. It's very quiet, and it's way off the beaten track. And there's like 2 or 3 houses and the church. Obviously, the rectory long gone. But you just park up there and just stand there, and you just feel something. It's a very, very strange place.
First time I went to Borley. Early 2001, and because it is so out of the way, my girlfriend and I spent so long trying to find it that by the time we got there it was pretty late at night. It was pitch black, but we were there, so I had to
I was there during the day, and it was just
walk around the graveyard. I took a load of pictures, and I do believe in ghosts certainly, but I'm also quite scientific and sceptical. But on some of these pictures, you can quite clearly see, I won't say what they are, but the figures look like a procession of cowl shapes in the graveyard. So it could be, it could be trees, it could be the tombstones, yet you can clearly see the tombstones, and these are on a different level. But there's some great pictures.
Well, that's beautiful.
Haven't spent the night locked in Paul Church.
I thought you might have done.
With some friends. It was an incredible experience. Now, I would love now to tell you exactly the scary things that happened, but nothing actually happened. And yet, there was a sense all the time that something could or would or was about to happen. But I don't know if that's conditioning, having read so much about the church and the haunted, the rectory, and
I mean, it was over such a long period that. I mean, it's the guy who had the place built, and I've read so much since, which has knocked a lot of it out of the water, which is a little scary. It's a bit sad.
I've spent many nights shut up in so-called haunted houses, and I have to say that the night in Baldy was the scariest.
It has a weird atmosphere.
But because I'm not saying I could sense anything. I'm not saying, but again, I with hindsight, I've often thought about it. How much of that trepidation was actually psychological, caused by the fact that I expected.
I did try and sort of knock that out. I went there specifically to just go there and see what it was like. And I did. I felt really odd.
It was the thing that really I didn't like was the big tomb in the corner.
I've not actually been in the church.
There's a
because that's one of the few churches they keep locked, isn't it?
There's a vault grave back there.
Especially over Halloween.
Yes, unfortunately access to the church I think is
very limited.
restricted now.
Up in your neck of the woods now, in Scunthorpe, anything major haunting areas up there?
Nothing major. I mean, the place I like to go is Lawton Woods. It used to be called Gallows Woods, but they changed the name just to make it a bit more cheery. There's no ghosts in it, but it's just a real peaceful place. And there was a rumour that someone had let a big cat loose, like a puma. And I was walking my dog there one day, and I was on the hackles on the dog's back. Someone up, and she looked into the woods, and I just saw this big creature going into the woods. And if it was a dog, it would have come up to me. But it was like sort of cat shaped. See the arch, back it's cat shaped, and
mind you were already running. So.
Well, I contacted the paper, and they said, "Oh, you've had a few reports out." And gave me emails to some people, and they started contacting me. So, "Oh, look at my pictures, and a few people have seen it. It's just that's about the weirdest thing there was big cat.
Obviously, Joe's just said obviously believe in ghosts. About the other three, do you actually believe there's something out there?
Yes, but I'm not quite certain I like the word believe. I don't know what belief is, but having spent far too many years now researching, I would say that over 95% of the ghost stories that I've encountered, that I've told, that have been told to me, I take with a huge pinch of salt. But there are one or two, the Old Man of Hopton being one of them, there's one or two others, plus one or two personal experiences that I've had. And I hasten to add, I don't claim to be psychic or anything like that. My wife will tell you I'm probably dead from the neck up anyway. But there seems to be this tiny proportion of these stories that do defy a rational explanation. I know it's gone off a bit of a tangent, but I kind of lump that in with UFOs. That there is just a tiny, tiny fraction of the whole picture that no matter from what angle you come, how you look at it, how you analyse it, you cannot actually explain it away.
And it only takes one story to be true.
Yeah.
I was going to say, with all the sort of speculation, there's never been any proof as such there are ghosts. But would you actually like there to be proof, or are you happy kind of not knowing?
I want the mystery. If you can explain what it is, it becomes an everyday thing, and it becomes no more exciting than a supermarket.
Yvette Fielding will never make any money.
No, it is the fact that okay, even if you accept the fact that there are such things as ghost apparitions, call them what you will, it's still, there's no explanation as to what exactly or why exactly they're there, and where they come from. Are they from the future? Are they from the past? Are they from another dimension? Are they from a parallel universe? They could be anything. Could even be spirits of dead people. If you but yeah, there is. I don't even know if they come from beyond the grave. As I said, I'm far more confused now than I was back in the 1970s.
I think this is, the more you do see of it, the more you do look into it, the more you question it yourself and approach it with an intelligent frame of mind. However open-minded and however much you believe in it, you can explain it less and less. It doesn't become simple, and that is probably part of the appeal and probably what keeps driving us on. There's more reward in the more mysteries that we find, rather than if we were given a simple explanation, we could, turn our back on it and go home satisfied. We can never do that, and I can't imagine any of us would want to.
No, that's the attraction of the whole thing. I don't want there to be an explanation.
No. Well, it's nice though. You can, with the way it is nowadays with technology, modern technology, and like everybody's got a phone on their camera, so there's a lot of these things being picked up. And you trawl through YouTube, but mind you, it takes some hours to trawl through YouTube because there's a lot of junk out there as well.
Yeah.
And you come across the occasional one that is a little bit iffy, not quite sure, no explanation.
But
the shadow people,
the
shadow people one seems to have been explained a lot more lately, and you were saying about people visiting from other dimensions or whatever is one explanation. But there's a hell of a lot of shadow people videos on YouTube. Some of them are quite frightening.
You mentioned technology as well. I find that quite interesting, having started when we had our scientific equipment, for instance, when we first started to investigate haunted houses, cold drafts were supposedly associated with haunted houses. So we had draft detectors, which were actual fact pieces of folded paper, which blew over if there was a draft. I mean, that's really high-tech stuff. It seems to me, watching a lot of the YouTube, TV programs and that sort of thing, the more the technology has advanced, we haven't got any closer to explain that, but we've in actual fact created new ghosts with our technology. It's the orbs are the fashionable thing at the moment, but they never appeared until digital cameras.
They reckon they can only be seen on, sorry, Yvette Fielding reckons they can only be seen on digital cameras.
So it seems as if the phenomena is actually changing as the technology changes. I went to a haunted airfield with a group of ghost hunters from Essex, and it was absolutely incredible, the gadgets that the people are producing now. It seems as if the whole investigation thing is becoming more and more complex, and the more complex the equipment, the more complex the findings, and the more complex the whole subject seems to become.
It take longer to set it up and work out the results than
perhaps
actually
I'm just a refugee from the past, and I much prefer my pieces of folded paper.
Have any of you ever tried to make serious contact by way of Ouija board or seance, or if not, would you want to?
Yeah, I've used the Ouija board.
Any results?
Yes, the glass moved. I don't know who pushed it. I don't know. It's very difficult from my point of view. If you want to investigate ghosts scientifically, to find a practical, a measurable result, you cannot use other unexplained phenomena to do that. When we first started doing our investigations, we said we would never take mediums or anything like that with us, because can you use one unknown quantity to investigate another unknown quantity? But my feeling that's become a lot more blurred now, and perhaps you can, perhaps all the unknown quantities, if you bung them into a great big melting pot, you might actually come out with something that's. But I'm quite convinced now that I shan't live to see an explanation to any of this stuff. I might actually die and find the explanation.
Well, you know the rules. You've got to come back and tell us.
Well, the pact is already on. If it's possible, I'll do it. But I don't hold out a lot of hope of that, to be honest with you.
But Ouija was a game anyway, so
yeah,
it was a board game.
It's owned by Hasbro now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I'm not even kidding.
Any questions from the floor?
Yeah, can I ask you a question? Have any of you guys written much about Asian ghost stories? You know, my wife was here last time, it's Chinese, and it's all about Halloween and how scary it is here. In Chinese society, it lasts a whole month, and their ghosts were, it was just a whole different, and I don't know if it's more terrifying, but everything we had, they seemed to be able to trump it with something worse. You know? And their ghosts do. So I just wonder if you thought about writing stuff about those, different tradition, maybe.
I think quite possibly the influence comes to us, doesn't it? Through, if you read Asian ghost stories, or certainly a while back we had the great run of some very good Asian films which brought a lot of interest in it. But the ghosts are fantastic, and they live with them very well, I think, which doesn't make the stories any less frightening. You think for a culture that was perhaps better integrated with spirits, it might have quietened them down, it might have tamed them, but it certainly doesn't seem to be the case. So I'd certainly say that the influence has come through, to me, influences from ghost stories all around the world that I've read, but Asia particularly rich, particularly enjoyable.
I can't say I've actually read any. Definitely something I've looked at.
Yeah, me neither. Although I have to say I'm very aware that they're sort of the China, Japan, the whole approach to the thought of spirits of the dead and ancestors is totally different to what we have, and they come from a totally different angle, and I think
celebration. There's a lot of celebrations.
Ghosts can come back for stuff and like stuff for them, and they realise they are about. They're not hunting for them; they're there.
Yeah. I think that is probably, in my limited experience of sort of Asian, Chinese, Japanese ghost stories, there is this ancestor part of it that we definitely.
No.
In this country, we stick people in the ground,
Put
and that's the end.
And
That's the end. And if one of them happens to get out and come round, so it's. But whereas there, it's that they are there all the time with you. You carry the spirits of your. So possibly because. I don't know. This is just off the top of my head right now. Perhaps that's why their ghosts are more terrifying, because the ordinary ghosts are there, the ancestors are there with you all the time, so there's nothing scary about them. So you have to create, if you like, even scarier ghosts because I think it's an inherent part of human nature that we need to be scared. So if your ghosts are mundane because they're there all the time, they're actually your relatives who are. Most relatives are not very scary, are they? I had an uncle who was very scary. So perhaps in that culture, their ghosts, their scary ghosts, have to be really scary, whereas ours can be moderately scary. In fact, we don't even have to see them to be scared by them. There's mind and Paul's experiences.
I think you're right, 'cause there you can send them presents as well. So when they burn stuff, it appears in hell, and the person's got it to use. You can send them a house or money, and they can use it. Not cash transfer.
Do you think ghosts are connected to religion? Do you think religion is, all obsessed with life after death? Do you think it's all...
Well, we have the Holy Ghost, don't we?
I don't know. I would say I think different religions just have their own way of explaining it. They're there, but everyone explains it differently.
What you were saying about ghosts and like you were saying the Asian ghosts, they're different.
How they're perceived.
Yeah.
It's a spirituality as opposed to religion. It's something which is bigger than any one particular religion, in which cannot be contained by any rules, including that of religion. It's so much bigger and more inexplicable than any of it. Certainly, different religions will try and get a handle on ghosts and try and explain them to its own end. But for something to be so widespread across cultures around the world who don't even have religion, who are too primitive to have any kind of organised religion, and yet still have an acceptance or an awareness of ghosts.
But is that just an acceptance because you want, when you die, you don't want to die, you want to live forever, or you want something after you're dead? You don't want to just be nothing.
I'm not. I'd find it harder to believe that there can be nothing of this. I mean, all we are is a load of bones and meat and anything you could find in a butcher's shop window, essentially. But what animates us? What makes me look out from my eyes? What gives me personality? What gives each of us our individual characteristics? A tremendous. It's magical, really. What makes us alive? And I do not believe that can be contained by our physical presence, and that it can just end when our physical presence ends.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well, especially as I see the end coming. I see that guy sometimes right in the distance. He's carrying a sign.
Stay away from him.
He lurks there right in the distance sometimes. But perhaps some of it is. I agree with you. There's something inside me, perhaps it's just wishful thinking, that makes me feel that there has to be more than this physical, tangible, meaty world that we live in. What makes me me, what makes you you, what makes me think, what makes me... Because somebody did an experiment, but I think it's actually been that they actually measured weight in somebody when they were dying, and they said that as the person died and they took their last breath and the soul departed the body, the weight of the body dropped by about 2 milligrams as the spirit left, as the soul departed. But I think that's actually been discredited now.
Speaking of the end, we'll call this to an end now. So thanks to Nat, Ivan, Joseph and Paul.